Cars are more secure than ever before, but there remains one simple way for thieves to get in.
With your keys.
And it seems they'll do almost anything to get them. In a series of violent carjackings across the West Midlands, drivers have been attacked with knives, iron bars and baseball bats.
So why are criminals going to such extreme lengths? And could a simple change in the law help solve the problem?
To find out, we'll hear from the victim of one of the most frightening attacks.
I remember being run over and I realised that they'd taken my baby and the car.
And I'll join the police as they try to tackle the problem.
Can raids like this really prevent carjackings?
Yes, definitely.
These CCTV images show just how determined car thieves in the West Midlands have become. In this brutal attack in Kings Heath, thieves punched and kicked a man in an attempt to steal the keys to his Audi. Masked thieves in Solihull attacked this driver with metal poles as they tried to take his BMW. Here, a stunned motorist in Castle Bromwich is hit with an iron bar before thieves drive off in his Audi. And this video in Walsall shows a car thief trying to grab the keys to a Mini from an off-duty policeman. The officer is stabbed in the chest. But one recent carjacking made national headlines. It happened on the afternoon of July the 19th.
New mum Claire O'Neill left this supermarket in Birmingham and drove home, with her 4-week-old baby daughter Eliza asleep in her car seat.
What happened next so traumatised Claire that she still feels unable to do a television interview. But she has agreed for us to use her voice and photos taken after the attack. We've used an actress to reconstruct what happened.
I parked the car in the shared parking area of our cul-de-sac and had taken the baby bag out of the boot of the car and was taking Eliza's car seat out of the back of the car, when suddenly I realised there were 2, maybe 3 men running towards me. So at that point I started to scream because I felt like they were going to kidnap the baby, was my gut reaction. He looked inside the car and he saw my baby in the car and he ran away to the car they came in and he was told to finish the job.
Stand back, we're taking your car.
And I said, "You've got my baby. You are not taking my car." So I threw myself over her in the car seat as the car started reversing and I fell to the floor outside of the car. And I remember being run over, the front tyre driving over my right elbow, and I realised that they'd taken my baby and the car. And I screamed. I'm told it was about 45 minutes that she was missing for. It felt like a lifetime.
The carjackers dumped Eliza outside a local health centre. Remarkably, she was found safe and well.
It was probably the best thing I've seen in my life. Knowing that she was safe again, and my husband and I were very pleased to see her safe.
Claire's attackers haven't been caught. The police are still hoping someone will come forward to help identify them.
My injuries were quite severe initially, so for 2 to 3 weeks, just even holding my 4-week-old baby was painful. I'm now anxious with her in the car. They've taken so much more from me than a piece of metal.
What an ordeal. And right across the West Midlands, there's been a sharp increase in the number of car thefts. In 2014, just over 5,000 vehicles were stolen. Last year, that figure had doubled to more than 10,000.
And West Midlands Police believe the increase is linked to this, the legitimate trade in cars that have been written off.
They're called salvage vehicles.
Say you have an accident. If it's cheaper to replace your car than fix it, your insurer will write it off. If it's a wreck, It will then be sold for parts. But the insurance company can recoup more of its losses by selling the car at auction as a repairable vehicle. And insurers make 6 times as many write-offs available for repair as they do for parts. West Midlands Police say that's created a big demand for second-hand parts, with so few available to fix all those damaged vehicles. And criminals are taking advantage.
Typically, criminals buy a legitimate write-off and then order thieves to steal the exact same make, model and even colour of vehicle to use for parts. The repairs are then done in a dodgy garage or chop shop, and the vehicle, which appears legitimate, is then sold for profit.
And it's big business. West Midlands Police recently discovered around 250 salvage vehicles at a business run by one criminal gang.
We found evidence of about 90 stolen vehicles and several thousand vehicles that have gone through that company over recent years, and a turnover of about £7 million. So that's the kind of the market that is being generated by this problem.
But why has it become such a problem so quickly? Well, West Midlands Police noticed that the sharp increase in car thefts coincided with a change in the law. In October 2015, the government stopped doing mandatory checks on salvage vehicles before they're allowed back on the road. This carjacking took place just 4 months later.
The government decided the checks were unnecessary because they identified such a small number of illegal vehicles. But police believe they were an important deterrent.
We think that the removal of that certification process has contributed to the problem and made it easy for criminals to exploit this market.
So now both the police and insurers want the government to bring back those mandatory checks.
When a car is written off, it can nonetheless end up back on the road without any fresh identity or safety check. That seems to us a really obvious loophole. Putting in some sort of test or procedure would be a big deterrent to criminals and would give consumers a lot more reassurance.
But in response, the Department for Transport told us there is no evidence to suggest that reintroducing the vehicle identity check would be a proportionate method of addressing vehicle crime or improving vehicle safety. The scheme was closed following a full public consultation.
Warrant being executed today under the Scrap Metal Act.
But while the authorities continue to debate the possible long-term solutions, the police are targeting the criminals responsible, raiding suspected chop shops. This morning I'm in Coventry with officers who've been tipped off about a small industrial unit. The company is known for selling lots of vehicles on well-known auction websites.
Police.
When we arrive, there's no one around, but the officers do find a high-end car that appears to be under repair.
Well, police have found quite a lot of car parts here, mainly Mercedes. They found airbags, gear sticks, well, all sorts of things. They've just got to verify now whether these parts are stolen.
In fact, officers find that some parts are from a car stolen during a burglary in Birmingham in July. And the parts apparently destined to repair the Mercedes come from a matching vehicle stolen in Yorkshire in August. It's a decent haul for the regional organised crime disruption team, led by Detective Constable Shona Frencham.
Is this your typical chop shop then?
This is your typical chop shop.
Can raids like this really prevent carjackings?
Yes, definitely. It stops the market being available for the people who steal the cars to bring the cars to for them to be stripped down.
Meanwhile, the advice for second-hand car buyers is always to do a vehicle history check. They're available online for a few pounds and will show if the car's ever been written off. And an inspection from an independent mechanic should reveal any major defects.
Of course, no one but the criminals themselves are to blame for the rise in car thefts. But it is clear something needs to be done. And we should all be vigilant.
That day has changed my life forever. I'm scarred physically and mentally for the rest of my life because they wanted my car. Something needs to be done about this.